Hey guys, well, welcome back. We're back for another installment of all my favorite books. We're going to talk about my favorite thrillers. I've started curating these lists to really kind of get back to and analyze things that I really enjoy in books because last year's reading experience was terrible. I don't think I read anything that really wowed me all year. And so far so good this year. I definitely am kind of getting back to like understanding myself and what I really like in books. Now I don't have as many thrillers as I did fiction. I was actually really surprised at how many fictions I had. As far as thrillers go, I don't have that many, but what I do have are really good. The first book is The Mother-in-Law by Sally Hepworth. The mother-in-law is Diana. She has made a really big name for herself. She's someone to really look up to. Lucy is the daughter-in-law, and ever since she had come into the family, Diana has always kind of kept her at arm's length and has really honestly been just outright cold to her on occasion. We start this book when we find Diana has passed. The autopsy finds no cancer, but it does find traces of poison and suffocation. Who could want Diana dead? So we go back through the story of Lucy, her husband, the siblings, everyone in her life. So as we go through the story, we get flashbacks of Lucy's relationship with Diana and different things that have happened over the years since she's come into the family and her struggles with her relationship with Diana. Like Diana wanted like overstepping sometimes and just being just awfully rude and everything. But this was such an incredible story and the ending really had me. The twist I did not see coming from a mile away. It was a shocker. Really good. I really like this one because it is a domestic story. You have Diana who in the family who's incredibly wealthy, what that means for her children and their relationship with her. Are they loving and doting, or do they take advantage of her and have expectations? The dynamic of Lucy, her husband, and their child, and then the mother-in-law, like kind of how that kind of comes together. I feel like if you're married and have kids, you may or may not identify with this, or maybe you love your in-laws. Like I love my in-laws, and I'm thankful that I don't have issues with my in-laws. But because I've heard horror stories, and I think whenever you get married, people are like that is something you have to consider when you get married is it going to be a problem? How are you going to navigate those relationships? But I think that is always a very interesting story to tell. What else? I also really like, the family secrets. I also like the way the narration is told because you're starting in the present and you have the flashbacks to kind of puzzle together everything, and then where you start at in the beginning is not where you end up, and how the relationship changes and everything is really interesting. The incredible twist at the end. The next one is Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews, and this is the first in a series called the Dollinger series. Read this book because my mom suggested it to me. She said it was an amazing book, and I'm not gonna lie, I started reading this book and I was like, there's something wrong with my mom if this is her favorite. But then I realized, yeah, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, you cannot put it down. It just grabs you. It's so twisted and it's so messed up, and like that's why it becomes so good, because it is so bad. Because this book was so impactful to me and so entertaining, I might consider picking up the other books in the series. So this follows this woman, and I think something happens to their father, and there's 3 or 4 children, I forgot. And the 2 oldest, boy and girl, are looking out for the younger siblings, and they don't really understand. It's told from their perspective. They don't really understand what's happening, why this is happening to them. But their mother packs them up one day and moves them to her mother's house. And she lives in this huge mansion. When they arrive, the grandmother just snatches them up and takes them to this attic room and is like, y'all have to stay here. And their mother seems very upset, and she says, just stay quiet and I'll be right back. And she gets all dressed up and like goes to this party that's downstairs. And time goes on, they realize like they're not leaving, and their mother starts visiting less and less. It turns out that their mother was working towards getting this fortune from the grandmother, but the grandmother ended up having complete control over her life and therefore the children's lives and the things that happen to these kids. It is twisted. It is so twisted. And whenever it comes to stories about kids, like, it gets me. It is a trigger for me. Don't hurt kids. They're so innocent. But then there's some other things that happen in here, which is kind of icky. But then in the grand scheme of things, you just have to think, like, they've been stuck in this attic for years, alone, isolated. The next book I have is called Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This book is one of the first videos I did for YouTube many years ago when I lived in Colorado. I did like a review video for this. I could not believe this book. It had me. It still has me. Like, it is so messed up. And you keep, like, thinking one thing and then it changes because the narrator changes. And basically it follows this woman who has gone missing, and this guy, like, her husband is like, oh my god, what has happened to my wife? She's gone missing. It looks like someone came in and attacked her. And so he gets the police involved, and then they get on the news. We're in his head for majority of the book, and then about halfway through we get into her head as the story unravels of how they met, when they got married, how the relationship changed as they went on in their lives and expectations and the kinds of people they are. You're just like, this can't get any more effed up. And it is so good. I could not put it down. Okay, so the things that I liked about this book were obviously how twisted it was. It was not what I was expecting. When I was reading this book, I was also in the midst of my paralegal degree, and so I really liked how we were dealing with the criminal case of it, and I found that really fascinating. Like, I thought it brought up a lot of really interesting things about how the media can really affect the case in the courts and everything, because it was highly publicized. And so the husband's attorney kind of gets into that kind of conversation. So when they show up and do interviews, that kind of goes into the interviews. And then also another interesting aspect is how the husband does not interview well at all. And so a lot of people were judging him because of his ability to talk to the masses about things, in camera. And some people are just really not good at talking to people, how he reacts when people start pointing fingers at him. Then as the case starts to go on, as the investigation starts to go on, they start digging out all the details of their marriage, of their relationship, of his secrets, how that all changes things. And so anyways, it was really, really good. The next one is also another book by Gillian Flynn called Sharp Objects. And this follows our main character who has grown up, moved away from home and her town, where there is a lot of sore feelings, a lot of secrets, and she is just living her life as an investigator. No, what is she? I think she's a writer. Is she a writer? Anyways, there's an unsolved murder in her hometown, and so she is assigned to cover this unsolved case and go back home. And this ends up being a very difficult thing for her. We start to unravel why that is. She has this very strained relationship with her mother. She has gone through a lot of things which cause her to cut herself, like a lot. Obviously the story starts to unravel, her past starts to unravel, and we get to see why she does what she does now. And it's really, really good and devastating and hard. So that's a good one. What I liked about Sharp Objects, oddly enough, I kind of liked the character who self-harms, because that is a very real situation that she's dealing with, a very real coping mechanism for bad things that happen in your life, mental health. And then I like the addition of that relationship with her mom, and I kind of forgot the details of how it was, but I just remember thinking, like, this is messed up, and that gets me. So the next one is The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks, and this one is so twisty. You first start out with the perspective of this woman who seems like she's stalking somebody, like she's going out of her way to go and stake out in front of this other woman's house and starts staring at her through the window and everything. I've read this so long ago. I can't remember the details. I can't remember how it all plays out, but I was not expecting it at all. It is so weird. Go into this thinking like one thing, and then you learn something about something else, and it twists and turns. It's like Switchback Street on how you feel about your characters and like what you think is going on and what's actually going on. And I remember it being like this crazy roller coaster ride of a book. And then it was really, really twisted. And I can't tell you anything else because, like, seriously, it's so much better, like, just going in blind. And that's how I read it. But you probably infer what is going on enough from the title. It says The Wife Between Us. So obviously there's a guy and there's two women with this guy and something's going on. So the next one is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and this is kind of a play on Turn of the Screw. I haven't read I tried reading Turn of the Screw a long time ago, but I think that's actually where I got the idea that I'm not really into ghost stories, but I think there was just that book. Sorry, squeaky chair. I thought this book was amazing. One of my favorite aspects of this book was the poison garden. It was crazy. I love when there's poison in books. But this follows a girl who goes to this wealthy family's home to be a nanny and watch out for their kid. But it turns out that the reason she got the job isn't so coincidental. You have to discover that. And it is twisty. It is so good. So good. Domestic setting of like this couple and a nanny, a wealthy family, and the very last one for this list is The Final Girls by Riley Sager. Maybe this is really only the first like kind of slasher murder one that I've read, but this follows this girl who goes on a vacation with a bunch of friends and a tragedy happens, a massacre happens, and she is the only one that survived. And so ever since she has come back, she's got like massive PTSD she's dealing with and having to seek counseling for. She's like, everyone wants to interview her and talk to her about her experience, and it's really changed her life. That's been like the central focus of her whole life since this has happened to her. So many years later, she is doing pretty well. She's managed to put it behind her. She has a fiance, and she has a really close relationship with the officer who found her all those years ago and saved her life. Until one girl from her past ends up dead, and another starts knocking on her doorstep and shaking up her life, and things start to maybe be happening again. So it forces her to confront what had happened in the past. And yeah, this was really, really good. I did not see that ending coming. Again, a really good ending. And that wraps up this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.